That's a really good mathematical system I just gave you there, and it will work. I promise you it will work if you push it through.
Hey, what is going on, guys? It is Kevin here, and today I am back with another reaction to a Dave Ramsey clip. But this one has a bit of a twist because in this video, we're not only going to just react to the clip, we're going to model out some different scenarios from the clip in our financial planning software. So I really hope you guys enjoy this and we all learn something new. Let's go.
Mary is with us in Florida. Welcome to the Dave Ramsey Show, Mary.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure. What's up?
Well, I just recently sold my home and paid off almost all of my debt. And but I'm 59 and I do not have any money in retirement.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering what your advice would be. Instead of taking all of the money that I have and putting it into a home, I was thinking that maybe I should beef up an investment account.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I know that your steps say that's like borrowing money to invest.
Right.
But
Okay. So how much
this
debt do
close
you
to
have? How much
retirement,
debt do you currently have that you have not paid off?
well, I have a lease that has 30 months remaining, and it's $400 a month.
Good Lord.
So,
Okay.
but I just didn't think it would be wise to turn that over yet.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And do you have anything else?
In debt? No.
Okay.
I am cash flowing my daughter's college right now, and no other debt.
Okay. And how much money do you have that is in your account today with the sale of your house after you paid off some of the debts?
Well, I have a total of 290. I put 10,000 in my emergency fund,
Mm-hmm.
and I have about 5,000 in an account because I haven't done my 18 taxes yet. I'm just getting ready to do them.
Gotcha.
All right, so, she definitely, I wouldn't say she has nothing saved for retirement if she plays her cards right here, because she does have, I think she said about $275,000, $290,000 actually, that she could use for retirement purposes. Obviously, she's either gonna have to buy a house or she's gonna be renting somewhere. So from what I'm seeing so far, this is going to be where a big decision happens. Does she get the house? Does she pay cash? Does she get a mortgage? Does she just rent? Those are some things that we can model out later as well.
But if I was going to do a SEP, I'm self-employed, and if I was going to do a SEP, I wanted to. I've been waiting to figure out what to do before I.
Mm-hmm. And what do you earn? What's your household income?
It's about $70,000 a year.
What kind of a business have you got?
I do small business bookkeeping for
good.
private individuals.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So a SEP is a SEP IRA. That's a simplified employee pension. So that's a type of employer-sponsored retirement plan, basically for self-employed folks. Now, SEP is just one of the many ones out there. There's also a solo 401k. There's simple IRAs, and then something like a SEP IRA as well. So, whether or not that's the most optimal account for her is a question we can't answer yet. I personally really like solo 401ks because you can contribute as the employee and the employer, so you have higher limits. So, but the SEP is pretty good too.
fairly low impact, so you can do more of it and do it longer. That's a good news.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, what price range was the home you sold?
It sold for $518,000.
Got it. Okay. And what city do you live in Florida?
I am just north of Palm Beach, Florida.
Okay. All right. As in the Jupiter market, like that?
Just above Jupiter.
Okay. All right. I know where you are. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I would like to stay in the $300,000 range for a home, and so I was thinking maybe invest 200 into the house and take a small mortgage for 10 years.
Okay, here's where we've got to get. Here's our ratios. Here's the three or four numbers
Mm-hmm.
that are the big numbers in your equation. Okay, the by age 70 something. Okay, 15 years, 75. Okay, 15 years
Mm-hmm.
from now, we have to have a nest egg and a paid for house.
Mm-hmm.
We currently have 290,000 to do that with, and we have $70,000 a year to do that with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so that's you working to 75. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
if we or to
Yeah, I mean, working till 75, that's pretty far, and obviously that's going to depend on a lot of things, such as her health. Um, and I can tell you from doing a lot of retirement plans, if you work until 75, it's pretty hard not to have enough money in retirement, especially once you have Social Security kicking in. So for her, the problem I'm already seeing is, if we're following the baby steps, which everyone's going to have their own opinion on the baby steps, but if we're following the baby steps, then we're kind of already putting ourselves in a box. And so instead of trying to find maybe the most optimal path, we're already trying to put ourselves into a box of, possible solutions that may not be well optimized. And one of those is, as he's already alluding to, is probably going to be buying a house with cash, because the baby steps does not want you to have a mortgage in retirement. Which again, I wouldn't want to have a mortgage in retirement either, but we don't really know if that's the best path forward yet. So I'm interested to see if that's what he is thinking here.
72 or whatever. If you say 12 years, I don't care. But you've got $70,000 a year and 290,000 to accomplish that. Because if you do not have a paid for house when you're through working, you're going to have a major problem, because it destabilizes your whole situation to have a mortgage when you are retired. You
Mm-hmm.
do not want to go into retirement with a mortgage. So we've got to clear the house. The second thing then,
Right.
I don't disagree with that. In general, you don't want to have a mortgage, but like I said, we'll have to test out different models versus say renting versus having a house, or having a house with cash versus a mortgage, and see what is the most optimal path for Mary. I wouldn't just blanket say, hey, you absolutely can't have a mortgage in retirement, especially if she did something like a 15-year mortgage. And if she's going to work till 75 anyways, that's 15 years. So she would have a paid off house by the time she retires. So keep that in mind there too.
every dollar we pay into this house obviously means we don't have it in a nest egg. And borrowing it doesn't fix that, because we got to, if you borrowed on your house and say, okay, I'm going to put 200 down, and I'm going to have a $100,000 mortgage, well, then, you still got to pay the 100,000 off. And
Right.
that's still 100,000 that's not going into my retirement nest egg. So what would I do if I woke up in your shoes? Okay, here's what I would do if I woke up in your shoes. I don't know what you'll do, but this is what I would do. I would buy a $200,000 house for cash, which in your area ain't much of a house.
No.
Okay, it's an okay house. It's certainly not a shack, but it's a pretty far step down from where you were living. I understand that when I'm saying this. I'm going somewhere with this. Don't quit on me till we finish talking, okay? So I would
Mm-hmm.
start there, and I'd pay off my car today, find out what the early buyout on it is. It's probably around 12 grand, probably 11 grand, something like that, and find out what the buyout is and just pay the stupid thing off and own the car, okay? Or sell it and get one that you pay cash for. I don't care. Spend $10,000 or $12,000 doing that. 20,000 bucks, whatever it takes. Let's get out of this car lease. No more payments. Now we got zero payments now in my little scenario, the world I just invented. Okay, and we've got $50,000 or so to start our investing process into good mutual funds. Then you load up a SEP, you load up a Roth IRA, and you do everything you can to increase the number of accounts you keep books for, and let's increase your income.
Yeah, so definitely want to increase your income if you can, because that's going to make a big difference even over those 15 years. And like I mentioned, you did go for that pay the house in cash, which again, in the long term, it's going to help with your cash flow possibly, but you're taking such a big liquidity hit up front, because you're taking all that cash, putting into a house, and then you only have say $50,000 left over to invest. Say like the rule of 72, so let's say the return was a 10% a year return. That means your investment doubles every 7.2 years or whatever. For her, if you have $50,000, if that's doubling to 100K in 7 years, that's not moving the needle much. Whereas if she invests a lot of that, if not almost all of it up front, if you're doubling that in 7 years and then again before retirement, that's a completely different scenario. And again, your house, it's something you live in. It's not something you're going to be, actually withdrawing from to live on in retirement either. So again, we'll model out because I don't want to say any other plans better or worse. But while I'm paused here, I just remembered she said she's cash flowing her daughter's education. So she should immediately stop that because in all reality, there are loans for education, but there are no loans for retirement. So, it's a very noble thing to do and I get it, but if you're in this situation, let her get a loan for education and she can't be cash flowing that. She's got nothing in retirement accounts.
And let's bust it for a few years. Now, if we can get you up to $500,000 in savings for your retirement in a few years, and you want to move up in-house and pay cash for the move up, that'll be okay. That means we've gotten past the danger zone. But you retiring with zero money or close to zero money and a nice paid-for house is not a plan.
Right.
And so I'm going to scale your house back to get the other stuff started, and then, in 5 years, when you see that this is working and you want to move up in-house again, move up to about a 400 and pay cash for it. And, I think you'll be able to do that later in this plan, but I want you to make sure we first have got the wolf away from the door.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying, keep the wolf away from the door, but I would argue, investing a lot of that money up front instead of in a house is keeping the wolf away from the door because you're immediately putting into an account that, assuming the market doesn't have a horrible time over the next 10 years, which is unlikely, usually the bear markets only last like a year or two or three, so she has enough time here for the market to appreciate is what I'm saying. And so basically for her, investing that money is a much better logical step in my mind than getting a house with cash. But again, we'll model it out later because I don't want to say, one thing for sure.
So I would live in that $200,000 house for 3 to 5 years while I got my nest egg roaring. And when it's roaring and it's going big, it's on fire, then I'm talking about saving up, paying cash, moving up in house a little bit. And we know we're going to be okay. I think you'll be okay if you do all of this and you live on a tight budget. But you have not done that to date. To date, you've not saved a dime in 59 years on the planet. So you got some proving to do to yourself, not to me, but to yourself that you can do this. That's a really good mathematical system I just gave you there, and it will work. I promise you it will work if you push it through.
All right, you guys, here we are in our financial planning software. So really quick, just going to go over her profile. So she's 59. We have that she's single. She wants to retire at 75, which we can change that. Life expectancy is age 90. Her net worth, we have the emergency fund savings, 10K. The cash that she just got from the house being sold at 275K. Little small tax reserve of 5K. We have a taxable brokerage, SEP IRA, solo 401K, and a Roth IRA. These are all proposed accounts. We haven't funded them or anything like that. They're just going to be used for our software to, actually contribute to each of those. Her income, she makes $70,000 a year as a bookkeeper, and that's self-employed. And then Social Security, we have it starting at age 70. Again, we can change that, and it's estimated at $34,308. And it's just estimating that off of her income. So obviously we don't know her, she's not a client or anything. We don't have a Social Security statement. So these are our estimates basically. And then for the expenses and taxes, we have her current year living expenses are $35,000. This does not include housing or rent. So this is just, other stuff basically for living expenses besides housing, or else it'd probably be like $55,000, $60,000 a year instead. Now we have the car leasing here at $4,800. Daughter college support, I put in $10,000 a year. And then housing, so this would be if she was renting in our simulations at $24,000 a year. You're going to see that some simulations will have her renting, and then some of them have where she has a house, pays cash, has a house, has a mortgage. So it just depends how we set that up. And then lastly, we have no savings or contributions on her base plan. So that's the base profile set up for Mary. let's go ahead and check out some of the plans that we built for her. All right, so here we are at our planning tool. So I have Dave's plan here and then Kevin's plan. And what I'm going to do is we're going to go to our decision center. And this is where we can see a ton of different tools around cash flow analysis, retirement analysis. And we basically have three things going on here. We have the base facts. So that's what I showed you initially. So that basically says she just keeps that $275,000 in savings and just doesn't invest. We have Dave's plan and then we have Kevin's plan. So as you can see right now, her lifetime portfolio value, so this is from right now all the way until death in 2056, and retirement's right here with this little sunset here in 2041 at 75. So as you can see, she is likely to run out of assets based on this scenario because she just takes that money, puts in savings, she doesn't start contributing anywhere. So she's okay, for now because she's working. And then this is when Social Security is going to kick in at 70. And then once she retires and she has no more income coming in besides Social Security, that's where she's going to draw on these assets much more heavily. And then she's likely to run out of money. So let's go look at Dave's plan here. So we got a lot of things going on here. So let's go ahead and just go one by one. So I've modeled out here that Dave is going to have her buy that house with $200,000 in cash. We're going to remove that $24,000 rent expense I showed you earlier. We have the car lease buyout / payoff. So that means we're also going to remove that car lease payment. I have him maxing out the Roth IRA and also putting in a good chunk of change into the SEP contributions. I believe I have it set to around $10,000 to $13,000 per year. So based off this scenario, this, as you can see, is a much better scenario than what the base facts were because the base facts aren't actually saving for retirement. And as you can see, all the way by the end of life, we have a ton more money, over $1.5 million more. The tough part is from here until retirement. So if we zoom in on this, you can see we have this big drop here because we're buying that house. So for her portfolio value, it's going to take some time for this to recover and for this to build up until she has more money in retirement. So again, does this mean the scenario is bad? No. It just means, if there's other things that happen, like she has more expenses or, if she wants to retire earlier, it's going to make this plan a lot tougher. So again, this is a pretty solid plan in the long term, but in the short term, this is pretty tough. And, for example, if I toggle this on, let's say she retires at 71 instead of 75, the plan isn't going to be nearly as strong because those extra 4 years of working make a big difference. And with this kind of projection here, it's really rough in those first, several years of working. And, if you get like a bear market or something like that, that's where it can cause a lot of issues. Or, let's say she has more expenses that come up, that can cause a lot of issues. But either way, Dave's plan isn't horrible. Is it the most optimized? No, but I wouldn't call this plan awful or anything like that because, at the end of the day, she's still maxing out her Roth. She's still putting in a lot of money into her SEP IRA. She still has a home that's paid for in cash, so that helps with cash flow, especially later in retirement. She doesn't have that car lease anymore. So again, if you factor all that in, she's still going to have a lot of money, especially once she actually enters in retirement. Now let's jump over to my plan. So for my plan here, I have basically two different things modeled out regarding that home. So the first one here is if she just rents. So no house, no mortgage, we're just going to rent. So by renting, the glide path is a lot smoother here, guys. Not only do we have more assets overall, but just these first years until retirement are just a lot easier on her. And again, this software is going to model in a lot of things for the house. So, taxes, maintenance, insurance, all of that is being modeled in alongside inflation, different market returns, all of that is being modeled in here. So for her, maybe renting isn't such a bad idea because you reduce a lot of those expenses from owning a home, and then you're actually going to invest that unused home purchase cash, which is what is going on right here. Now for this scenario, I also have the car lease buyout and the payoff. We have removing that car lease payment. I said, hey, let's stop the, the college support to the daughter, so that helps a little bit with cash flow. And then I said, hey, let's max out that Roth IRA and let's put in some money for that Roth solo 401k. And now I have the amounts the same as the SEP IRA, but with a Roth solo 401k, if her cash flow could support it, she could put in a ton more money than this into that account. So do keep that in mind. Now let's go ahead and try this out. Let's say she retires at 71 instead of 75. The plan still looks really good here, guys. She still is going to be projected to have a ton of assets left over even at the end of life. So when I work with somebody, I'm always thinking, yes, we want to make those assets last, as long as we can and have a lot of money, generally as much as we can for retirement. But we also want to make sure those years that you can't get back are something that we're really working towards. And what I mean by that is basically we want to retire as early as we can, because those years are very precious and we don't know what's going to happen with our health sometimes. A lot of people, they save a bunch for retirement and then, they pass away and they never got to live, their golden years basically. So for someone like Mary, if she's retiring at 71 and the plan supports that, well, hell, that's a lot better than maybe working till 75 and just having more money, in your coffin. So things to keep in mind. And then I went ahead and I modeled out, what if she did buy a $250,000 house, so in between what Mary wanted and Dave wanted, with a 15-year mortgage, and then we're going to remove that $24,000 rent expense from her portfolio. And again, this also did really well in terms of total assets in the long term. In fact, I think this is the highest out of all the plans that I've seen that I simulated for the total assets at end of life and at retirement. But again, by having that initial purchase, it is going to strain you a little bit in those first few years, but not nearly as much as just throwing a bunch of cash at a house. So this could be also a pretty happy medium if she was somebody that preferred owning a home versus renting. So again, it would depend on what she would want to do. And then again, retiring at 71 versus 75, again, totally doable, ends with a ton of money. And again, retirement looks very, very good for her. One last thing I want to show you guys is the Monte Carlo simulation. So basically what this does is it runs 1,000 trials based off different market returns, because we don't know if the market's going to go up or down, right? So it could be really good, could perform average, could be pretty bad. So this is going to run 1,000 different simulations and then tell us, does Mary run out of money? Like what percentage of the time does she run out of money? And as you can see, with this setup and our plan, she has 100% probability of success, which is as good as it's going to get for this type of plan. And if she wants to retire, those extra 4 years earlier, it's still 100%. So again, this is really what the key, the most important thing about financial planning is finding where is that sweet spot where we can get those extra years back in retirement, but also have a plan that lasts and has good longevity. So that's what I do as a financial planner, and this is some very useful software for us to help, show that to our clients. All right, you guys, that is all that I have for today. If you did enjoy seeing this software implementation into our reaction clips, please let me know. I would like to make a lot more videos with our financial planning software just to show you guys, different comparison scenarios and just run different simulations for you guys. And I think it could be a really good way for you guys to see kind of under the hood of what goes on in financial planning instead of just telling you about it. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. And a like is always appreciated. But other than that, have a great day and I'll catch you in the next video.